Brought to you by WikiVD Documentaries. Tool band.
Tool is an American rock band from Los Angeles, California. Formed in 1990. The group's lineup includes drummer Danny Carey, guitarist Adam Jones, and vocalist Maynard James Keenan. Justin Chancellor has been the band's bassist since 1995, replacing their original bassist Paul D'Amour. Tool has won 3 Grammy Awards, performed worldwide tours, and produced albums topping the charts in several countries.
The band emerged with a heavy metal sound on their first studio album, Undertow, and later became a dominant act in the alternative metal movement, with the release of their second album, Ænima, in 1996. Their efforts to unify musical experimentation, visual arts, and a message of personal evolution continued, with Lateralus and the most recent album, 10,000 Days, gaining the band critical acclaim and commercial success around the world. Due to Tool's incorporation of visual arts and very long and complex releases, the band is generally described as a style-transcending act, and part of progressive rock, psychedelic rock, and art rock. The relationship between the band and today's music industry is ambivalent, at times marked by censorship and the band's insistence on privacy.
Early years, 1988–1992. During the 1980s, each of the future members of Tool moved to Los Angeles. Both Paul D'Amour and Adam Jones wanted to enter the film industry, while Maynard James Keenan found employment remodeling pet stores after having studied visual arts in Michigan. Danny Carey and Keenan performed for Green Gelly, and Carey played with Carole King and Pygmy Love Circus. Keenan and Jones met through a mutual friend in 1989.
After Keenan played a tape recording for Jones of his previous band project, Jones was so impressed by his voice that he eventually talked his friend into forming their own band. They started jamming together and were on the lookout for a drummer and a bass player. Carey happened to live above Keenan and was introduced to Jones by Tom Morello, an old high school friend of Jones and former member of Electric Sheep.
Carey began playing in the sessions because he felt kinda sorry for them, as other invited musicians were not showing up. Tool's lineup was completed when a friend of Jones introduced them to bassist D'Amour. Early on, the band fabricated the story that they formed because of the pseudo-philosophy, lacrimology. Although lacrimology was also cited as an inspiration for the band's name, Keenan later explained their intentions differently. Tool is exactly what it sounds like. It's a big dick. It's a wrench. We are your tool. Use us as a catalyst in your process of finding out whatever it is you need to find out, or whatever it is you're trying to achieve. After almost 2 years of practicing and performing locally in the Los Angeles area, the band was approached by record companies and eventually signed a record deal with Zoo Entertainment. In March 1992, Zoo published the band's first effort, Opiate, described by the band as slam and bang heavy music and the hardest sounding 6 songs they had written to that point. The EP included the singles Hush and Opiate. The band's first music video, Hush, promoted their dissenting views about the then prominent Parents Music Resource Center and its advocacy of the censorship of music. The video featured the band members naked, with their genitalia covered by parental advisory stickers and their mouths covered by duct tape. The band began touring with Rollins' band, Fishbone, and Rage Against the Machine, to positive responses, which Janice Garza of Rip magazine summarized in September 1992 as a buzz and a strong start. Undertow 1993-1995. The following year, at a time when alternative rock and grunge was at its height, Tool released their first full-length album, Undertow. It expressed more diverse dynamics than Opiate and included songs the band had chosen not to publish on their previous release. When they had opted for a heavier sound, the band began touring again as planned. With an exception in May 1993, Tool was scheduled to play at the Garden Pavilion in Hollywood, but learned at the last minute that the venue belonged to L. Ron Hubbard's Church of Scientology, which was perceived as a clash with the band's ethics about how a person should not follow a belief system that constricts their development as a human being. Keenan spent most of the show buying like a sheep at the audience. Tool later played several concerts during the Lollapalooza Festival tour, and were moved from the second stage to the main stage by the manager and the festival co-founder Ted Gardner.
At the last concert of Lollapalooza in Tool's hometown Los Angeles, comedian Bill Hicks introduced the band. Hicks had become a friend of the band members and an influence on them after being mentioned in Undertow's liner notes. He jokingly asked the audience of 10,000 people to stand still and help him look for a lost contact lens. The boost in popularity gained from these concerts helped Undertow to be certified gold by the RIAA in September 1993 and to achieve platinum status in 1995. Despite being sold with a censored album cover by distributors such as Walmart, the single "Sober" became a hit single by March 1994 and won the band Billboard's Best Video by a New Artist award for the accompanying stop-motion music video.
With the release of Tool's follow-up single, Prison Sex, the band again became the target of censorship. The song's lyrics and video dealt with child abuse, which sparked controversial reactions. Keenan's lyrics begin with, "It took so long to remember just what happened. I was so young and vestal then, you know it hurt me. But I'm breathing so I guess I'm still alive. I've got my hands bound and my head down, and my eyes closed and my throat wide open." The video was created primarily by guitarist Adam Jones, who saw it as his surrealistic interpretation of the subject matter. And while some contemporary journalists praised the video and described the lyrics as metaphoric, the American branch of Much Music asked Keenan to represent the band in a hearing. It deemed the music video too graphic and obscene, and MTV stopped airing it after a few showings. In September 1995, the band started writing and recording their second studio album. At the time, Tool experienced its only lineup change to date, with bassist Damore leaving the band amicably to pursue other projects. Justin Chancellor, a member of former tourmates Peach, eventually replaced Damore, having been chosen over competitors such as Caius Scott Reeder, Filter's Frank Cavanaugh, Pygmy Love's Circus E. Shepard Stevenson, and ZAUM's Marco Fox. Ænima and Salaval 1996-2000. On September 17, 1996, Tool released their second full-length album, Ænima. It was certified triple platinum by the RIAA on March 4, 2003. Damore left Tool, and Chancellor came on board during the recording of the album. The band enlisted the help of producer David Bottrell, who had produced some of King Crimson's albums, while Jones collaborated with Cam de Leon to create Ænimaa's Grammy-nominated artwork. The album was dedicated to stand-up comedian Bill Hicks, who had died 2.5 years earlier. The band intended to raise awareness about Hicks' material and ideas, because they felt that Tool and Hicks were resonating similar concepts.
In particular, Ænima's final track, Third Eye, is preceded by a clip of Hicks' performances and the lenticular casing of the Ænima album packaging, as well as the chorus of the title track, Ænima, make reference to a sketch from Hicks' Arizona Bay, in which he contemplates the idea of Los Angeles falling into the Pacific Ocean. The first single, Stinkfist, garnered limited airplay. It was shortened by radio programmers. MTV renamed the music video of Stinkfist to track number 1 due to offensive connotations, and the lyrics of the song were altered, responding to fan complaints about censorship. Matt Pinfield of MTV's 120 Minutes expressed regret on air by waving his fist in front of his face while introducing the video and explaining the name change. A tour began in October 1996, 2 weeks after Ænima's release.
Following numerous appearances in the United States and Europe, Tool headed for Australia and New Zealand in late March 1997. April 1st of that year saw the first of several April Fool's pranks related to the band. Kabir Akhtar, webmaster of the band's semi-official fan page, the Tool page, wrote that at least 3 of the band are listed in critical condition after a tour bus accident on a highway. This hoax gained wide attention and was eventually exposed on radio and MTV. Akhtar later posted an apology, claiming that the Tool page will not indulge itself in such outlandish pranks in the future, a claim that would be belied by later April Fool's pranks. Eventually returning to the United States, Tool appeared at Lollapalooza 97 in July, this time as a headliner, where they gained critical praise from the New York Times. Ænima eventually matched Tool's successful debut album in sales, and the progressive-influenced album landed the band at the head of the alternative metal genre. It featured the Grammy Award-winning Ænima and appeared on several Best Albums of 1996 lists, with notable examples being those of Kerrang! And Terrorizer. A legal battle that began the same year interfered with the band's working on another release. Volcano Entertainment, the successor of Tool's by then defunct label Zoo Entertainment, alleged contract violations by Tool and filed a lawsuit. According to Volcano, Tool had violated their contract where the band looked at offers from other record labels. After Tool filed a countersuit stating that Volcano had failed to use a renewal option in their contract, the parties settled out of court. In December 1998, Tool agreed to a new contract, a 3-record joint venture deal. In 2000, the band dismissed their longtime manager Ted Gardner, who then sued the band over his commission on this lucrative agreement. During this time, Keenan joined the band A Perfect Circle, which was founded by longtime Tool guitar tech Billy Howardle, while Jones joined the Melvins Buzz Osborne and Carey drummed with Dead Kennedy's Jello Biafra on side projects. Although there were rumors that Tool were breaking up, Chancellor, Jones, and Carey were working on new material while waiting for Keenan to return. In 2000, the Salival box set was released, effectively putting an end to the rumors. The CD contained one new original track, a cover of Led Zeppelin's No Quarter, a live version of Peaches, You Lied, and revised versions of old songs. The VHS and the DVD each contained 4 music videos, plus a bonus music video for Hush on the DVD. Although Salival did not yield any singles, the hidden track, Maynard's Dick, briefly found its way to FM radio when several DJs chose to play it on air under the title, Maynard's Dead. Lateralus, 2001-2005. In January 2001, Tool announced a new album, Sistema en Safel, along with a 12-song tracklist containing titles such as Rivercrest, Number F, Encephalitis, Music, and Coeliacus. File-sharing networks such as Napster were flooded with bogus files bearing the titles' names. At the time, Tool members were outspokenly critical of file-sharing networks in general due to their impact on artists that are dependent on record sales to continue their careers.
Keenan said during an interview with NY Rock in 2000, "I think there are a lot of other industries out there that might deserve being destroyed. The ones who get hurt by MP3s are not so much companies or the business, but the artists. People who are trying to write songs." A month later, the band revealed that the new album was actually titled Lateralus, the name Systemaencephale, and the track list had been a ruse. Lateralus and the corresponding tours would take Tool a step further toward art rock and progressive rock territory. Rolling Stone wrote in an attempt to summarize the album that drums, bass and guitars move in jarring cycles of hyper-howl and near-silent death march.
The prolonged running times of most of Lateralus' 13 tracks are misleading. The entire album rolls and stomps with sweet-like purpose. Joshua Klein of the AV Club expressed his opinion that Lateralus, with its 79 minutes and relatively complex and long songs, topped by the 10.5-minute music video for Parabola, posed a challenge to fans and music programming alike. The album became a worldwide success, reaching number 1 on the US Billboard 200 Albums chart in its debut week. Tool received their second Grammy Award for the Best Metal Performance of 2001 for the song Schism. During the band's acceptance speech, drummer Carey stated that he would like to thank his parents and Satan, and bassist Chancellor concluded, "I want to thank my dad for doing my mom." Extensive touring throughout 2001 and 2002 supported Lateralus, and included a personal highlight for the band, a 10-show joint mini-tour with King Crimson in August 2001. Comparisons between the two were made. MTV describing the bands as the once and future kings of progressive rock. Keenan stated of the mini-tour, "For me, being on stage with King Crimson is like Lenny Kravitz playing with Led Zeppelin, or Britney Spears on stage with Debbie Gibson." Although the end of the tour in November 2002 seemed to signal the start of another hiatus for the band, they did not become completely inactive. While Keenan recorded and toured with A Perfect Circle, the other band members released an interview and a recording of new material, both exclusive to the fan club. On April 1, 2005, the official Tool website announced that Maynard has found Jesus and would be abandoning the recording of the new Tool album temporarily and possibly permanently. Kurt Loder of MTV contacted Keenan via email to ask for a confirmation, and received a nonchalant confirmation. When Loder asked again, Keenan's response was simply, "Hey hey." On April 7, the official site announced, "Good news, April the Fool's fans. The writing and recording is back underway." Work continued on the follow-up to Lateralus. Meanwhile, a Lateralus vinyl edition and 2 DVD singles were released, and the band's official website received a new splash intro by artist Joshua Davis. The double vinyl 4-picture disc edition of Lateralus was first released as a limited autographed edition exclusively available to fan club members and publicly released on August 23, 2005. On December 20, the 2 DVDs were released, one containing the single Schism and the other Parabola, a remix by Lust Maud, and a music video with commentary by David Yao and Jello Biafra. 10,000 Days, 2006-2007. 15 years into the band's career, Tool had acquired what Dan Epstein of Revolver described as a devoted, cult following, and as details about the band's next album emerged, such as the influence of Lateralus tour mates Fantomas and Meshuggah, controversy surrounding the new Tool album surfaced with speculation over song titles, and pre-release rumors of leaked songs. Speculation over possible album titles was dismissed, with a news item on the official Tool website announcing that the new album's name was 10,000 Days. Nevertheless, speculation continued, with allegations that 10,000 Days was merely a decoy album to fool audiences.
The rumor was proven false when a leaked copy of the album was distributed via file-sharing networks a week prior to its official release. The album opener, Vicarious, premiered on U.S. radio stations on April 17, 2006. The album premiered on May 2 in the US and debuted at the top spots of various international charts.
10,000 Days sold 564,000 copies in its opening week in the US, and was number 1 on the Billboard 200 charts, doubling the sales of Pearl Jam's self-titled album, its closest competitor. However, 10,000 Days was received less favorably by critics than its predecessor Lateralus had been. Prior to the release of 10,000 Days, a tour kicked off at Coachella on April 30.
The touring schedule was similar to the Lateralus tour of 2001, supporting acts were Isis and Mastodon. During a short break early the next year, after touring Australia and New Zealand, drummer Carey suffered a biceps tear during a skirmish with his girlfriend's dog, casting uncertainty on the band's upcoming concerts in North America.
Carey underwent surgery on February 21 and several performances had to be postponed. Back on tour, by April, Tool appeared on June 15 as a headliner at the Bonnaroo Music Festival, with a guest appearance from Rage Against the Machine's Tom Morello on Lateralus. Meanwhile, Vicarious was a nominee for Best Hard Rock Performance, and 10,000 Days won Best Recording Package at the 49th Grammy Awards. The music video for Vicarious was released on DVD on December 18. Hiatus, an upcoming fifth studio album, 2008-present. Chancellor stated in May 2007 that the band would probably continue their tour until early 2008, and then take some time off. He added that the band had already written some new material, and would surely release another album at some point. He speculated about the possibility of a band movie, something the band has considered for a long time. Ideas ranged from a narrative story in a surreal fashion with as much money and special effects as possible to pockets of all of it as something that's live at the band playing.
Although Carey stated that the necessary know-how was at hand due to the band's connections to artists working in the movie business, Jones dismissed the idea, saying, "It's just talk right now." The band's 2009 summer tour began on July 18 in Commerce City, Colorado, at the Mile High Music Festival. They headlined Lollapalooza 2009 and a show on August 22 for the Epicenter Festival in Pomona, California.
Their Tool Winter Tour played dates across the US and Canada in January and February 2012. The band played at Ozfest Japan on May 12, 2013. Meanwhile, Tool members have pursued their own musical projects. Keenan has toured extensively with Puscifer, which he describes as involving a series of musical ideas he did not have an opportunity to explore. With Tool, A Perfect Circle, Keenan and Carey offered conflicting reports on whether or not their next album would surface in 2013, though Carey later conceded that early 2014 seemed more likely. By May 2013, Keenan stated that he had actively joined the writing process as enough instrumental material had been written. On March 6, 2014, Crave Online reported that Jones had said the new album was complete and on track for a 2014 release. The following day, Tool released an official statement to Rolling Stone, explaining that Jones was joking. On July 15, 2014, Carey and Jones informed Rolling Stone that family commitments and an ongoing lawsuit are the key reasons for the delayed fifth album. Carey said to the music publication that one untitled track is pretty much done and explained in regard to the band's legal issue, but the point is, we're fighting the good fight. We're going to trial and we want to crush them, an insurance company. But every time we've gotten close to going to trial, it gets postponed and we've wasted money and time. And it has just drained our creative energy. We bought an insurance policy for peace of mind. But instead we would have been better off if we never had it and just dealt with the original lawsuit. In March 2015, Jones revealed that the lawsuit had been settled in the band's favor, and as such, the band was turning their focus towards recording the album. He said that he hoped the album would be finished before the end of 2015, but emphasized that the band would not rush their work to meet an arbitrary deadline. In January 2016, Tool undertook a tour of the United States. While it was reported in February 2017 that Keenan had entered the studio to work on vocals for the new record, it was later reported that the album was not scheduled for release in 2017. Still, the band announced a North American tour starting in May. Musical style and influences. Tool was described by Patrick Donovan of The Age as the thinking person's metal band. Cerebral and visceral, soft and heavy, melodic and abrasive, tender and brutal, familiar and strange, Western and Eastern, beautiful and ugly, taut yet sprawling and epic. They are a tangle of contradictions. Tool has gained critical praise from the International Herald Tribune CB Little for their complex and ever-evolving sound. Describing their general sound, AllMusic refers to them as grinding, post-Jane's Addiction heavy metal, and the New York Times sees similarities to Led Zeppelin's heaving, battering guitar riffs and Middle Eastern modes. Their 2001 work Lateralus was compared by AllMusic to Pink Floyd's Meddle, but 30 years later, and altered by Tool's impulse to cram every inch of infinity with hard guitar meat and absolute dread. Tool had been labeled as post-metal in 1993 and 1996, as well as in 2006, after the term came into popularity. Musical style. A component of Tool's song repertoire relies on the use of unusual time signatures. For instance, Chancellor describes the time signature employed on the first single from Lateralus, Schism, as 6 and 6.5, and that it goes into all kinds of other times. Further examples include the album's title track, which also displays shifting rhythms, as do 10,000 Days, Wings for Marie and 10,000 Days. Beyond this aspect of the band's sound, each band member experiments within his wide musical scope. Bass Player magazine described Chancellor's bass playing as having a thick mid-range tone, guitar style techniques, and elastic versatility. As an example of this, the magazine mentioned the use of a wah effect by hammering the notes with the left hand, and using the bass tone controls to get a tone sweep, such as on the song, The Patient.
from Lateralus. Completing the band's rhythm section, drummer Carey uses polyrhythms, tabla-style techniques, and the incorporation of custom electronic drum pads to trigger samples, such as pre-recorded tabla and octoband sounds.
Keenan's ability as a vocalist has been characterized more subjectively by the Seattle Post-Intelligencer after his performance during an Alice in Chains reunion concert in 2005. Freelancer Travis Hay saw him as a natural fit, replacing Lane Staley. Regarding his role in A Perfect Circle and Tool, The New York Times wrote that both groups rely on Mr. Keenan's ability to dignify emotions like lust, anger and disgust, the honey in his voice adding a touch of profundity. According to Guitar Player magazine, Jones does not rely on any one particular guitar playing technique, but rather combines many techniques. For example, AllMusic wrote that he alternately utilizes power chords, scratchy noise, chiming arpeggios, and a quiet minimalism in Sober. Additionally, the band uses forms of instrumental experimentation, like the use of a pipe bomb microphone and a talkbox guitar solo on Jambi. The band puts an emphasis on the sound of their songs and attempts to reduce the effect lyrics can have on the perception of songs by not releasing song lyrics with any album.
Lyrical arrangements are often given special attention, such as in Lateralus. The number of syllables per line in the lyrics to Lateralus correspond to an arrangement of the Fibonacci numbers, and the song Jambi uses and makes a reference to the common metrical foot I am. The lyrics on Ænima and Lateralus focus on philosophy and spirituality. Specific subjects range from organized religion and opiate to evolution and Jungian psychology in 46 and 2 and transcendence in Lateralus. On 10,000 Days, Keenan wanted to explore issues more personal to him. The album name and title track refer to the 27 years during which his mother suffered from complications of a stroke until her death in 2003. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVD Documentaries. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.